All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Yvette LaFleur, and I'm here with Lee Murphy Wolfe, and we're going to talk about energy today. We're going to talk about shifting those energy blocks, and Lee and I work in different ways in doing that. And so we're going to have a conversation, we're going to share about it, and take the opportunity to talk a little bit about what each of us do. And it is so exciting to have this conversation with Lee because we met because we are co-authors on a book that's coming out November 1st. So depending on when you watch this, you may watch it after the book is already out, or you may watch it before the book comes out, but it's not until November 1st of 2023 that the book is available. But we got the opportunity to meet and chat and talk about what we do because of that book. So it is just a wonderful, life brings us all different types of opportunities to connect with people, and there are no accidents. And so we're talking about the shifting and moving of energy today. And it's so funny that a story came into my head this morning of receiving acupuncture. And acupuncture is one of the ways to move energy in the meridians in our body. And I was thinking about how I had a needle. I don't know if it was in my neck or my shoulder, my arm. I honestly don't remember exactly where it was because this happened years ago. And I felt the energy literally spark out of my big toe. And so that moving of that energy is real. It is real. And there are so many different ways to move it. And so Lee and I are going to talk about that today. And Lee, thank you so much for saying yes and connecting with me so that we could talk about moving energy. And I forgot to say a little bit about you and what you do. Let me go and talk about. All right, hold on. Here we go. So Lee, here we go. So Lee is an expansion. Lee Wolfe is an expansion catalyst who guides soul-led women to become the visionary leaders they are meant to be in life and the business. Through her signature Calibrate Circle, her clients learn how to unlock the power of tuning to reconnect with themselves so that they can find their vibrational sweet spot and create inner harmony as they rise. Now, that's just a little bit of what Lee does. And I would love for you to share a little bit more about yourself and how you got to be where you are today.
Okay, well, that's the $64,000 question, isn't
Right?
it? Yeah, so thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be able to be diving into this more with you and with your audience. So for me, I've always been very kinesthetic and energetically connected to myself my whole life. I was an athlete, did a lot of yoga. I've probably practiced yoga on and off for a good 25 years. So I've just always been very much information comes through me, through the body, and I've always been highly intuitive. And as life went on, I got very disconnected from all of that, living in my head, going through school, corporate jobs, all those sorts of things. I'm sure you can relate to that too.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started my business, I started about a decade ago, and I was in the business coaching space. So again, super mental. A lot of people appreciated that, and it was fun, and I enjoyed it, and I love serving people. But I always felt like something wasn't pulling through. There's parts of me that just weren't present in the business. And then in 2020, my whole business collapsed when we went through the great pause. And for me, it was quite jarring, but it was such a great opportunity because I got to really look inward and reevaluate. And that's the point. I had been working with someone who was reading my Akashic records. And if you don't know what that is, that's like the record of your soul through time. And through a reading, what came through in channel was you're to work with sound and vibration. You are to work with tuning forks. And I thought, wow, that's quite a departure from where I've been. And I'd never seen a fork before. I never worked with one. No one had in my world. And I have a lot of colleagues and friends who are practitioners of different sorts. I'd never even experienced it. So I did the curious thing and I bought for $15. I bought a set on Amazon. I had no idea what I was buying. I'm like, oh, these look cool. So I got them. And the first time I played it, I looked up some things on YouTube. And when I played it, I broke into tears. It was like I came home and I knew I felt it in my hands. I felt it in my heart. And I'm like, this is who I am. And
Mm.
from there, everything accelerated and I formally studied. And then I started developing the Calibrate method, in which we're using forks to come back to ourselves and using them in a number of ways, and energy clearing is one. But that became part of the work that I do in the coaching work that I do to support these amazing women. So,
What I find fascinating about that is in this channeling through the Akashic records, you got something that was it was something you hadn't even heard of before. Like
mm-hmm.
you need to do, and you're like, what? Well, okay. And I
Yeah,
think when spirit speaks to us and it resonates on a level, it's not any egoic level, it's just a level of our souls knowing. And we say, okay. And that happened to me when I was told I needed to do Reiki. I went to see a medium and she put her hands on mine and she said, do you do Reiki? I said, oh yeah, I get it once a month. And she said, no, do you do it? And I said,
mm.
no. She said, you need to. And I was like, okay. And then within 24 hours, like I was on my path, right? So
Yeah.
when we know, when we hear on that level, when we follow that level, it just opens up a whole new world for us.
It
Love
sure
it.
does. And I think that what's so incredible, I love that, you had a similar experience. I mean, for me, it was like the universe hit me over the head with a 2x4. There was no turning back. I had a choice, actually. I could have rebuilt what had fallen apart, or I could have taken the guidance. And I knew in my soul it was time to take the guidance. And that's probably why the other fell apart. So I was super grateful, you know.
Yeah, that's one of those looking in the moment, you don't understand why is this falling? Why are the bricks coming out? Why do I feel like my world is caving in? It's not until you get to the other side sometimes when you say, oh, now I get why that happened.
Yeah.
And I do think that what you refer to as the great pause, gave many people the opportunity to see stuff they hadn't seen before.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about the tuning,
Mm.
because um, so the question that comes to my mind, I've got a lot of them, but just generally, how does it work? Like, why does it work? Well, maybe not the why, because we don't want to do like a scientific lesson, right? But general, like the Cliff Note version of why does tuning work for
Yeah.
energy?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because a lot of people nod and smile politely and they don't really even know what it is. So I think we'll start with that. So basically all tuning is using the pure simple frequencies of tuning forks to increase electrical flow in your body.
Hmm.
And so I say electrical flow for a reason, and this is the part of why it works on a high level. So we are electric beings and we forget this. We may think about what we put in our body from a food and a hydration perspective or the mechanics of our body, when we do something sporty or that kind of thing. Or even when we've had work like acupuncture or massage, it's very much we relate to it on the physical and mechanical level or the chemical level in terms of what happens when you eat something. So, underneath all of those functions in our body, it's powered by electric current. So,
Hmm.
your heart is measured with an EKG or your brain waves, right? So, these are electric measurements. So, tuning forks also are frequencies, just like radio
Hmm.
waves. And so they get to talk to your body and talk to your energy field very quickly and seamlessly. It's like you're going back to the original language of the universe, sound and vibration, and getting a direct connection so that what they can do is electrically just increase the flow and you release anything that's blocking that flow pretty seamlessly and with very little effort. So that's part of what I love about it. I mean, even if you feel like you can't sit still, some people think about, I want to meditate, but I can't do it. It's too hard to just be. Beautiful thing is with tuning, all you do is just focus on the sound that you hear and just see what you notice. And the forks
Mm.
do the rest. So yeah.
And are there forks? So you and I both utilize Reiki, energy healing in that
Mm-hmm.
form. Are the forks chakra focused? So are there lower and higher vibrations?
Yeah, so well, just like all things in the universe, there is a wide range of frequencies. Some we can hear, some we can't. With tuning forks, there are so many different types of sets built on different harmonics or different frequency progressions, kind of like music, right?
Mhm.
But they're not necessarily correlated with a specific chakra because well, as you know, if you're doing work and you have a blockage in one chakra, you can address that one chakra. However, that chakra is interconnected with all the other parts. And so that's why the forks are really more if the frequencies go where they need to go. Let's put it that way. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to use fork X for organ Y, you know. You get
That
much bigger ripple. Yeah.
Yep, that makes sense. And that's one of the things I tell my clients is you and I can say, hey, this is where we want to work, but the energy knows where it needs to go, right?
Yes.
So
Energy's smart. And again, this is like, this is it's in our DNA. It's like this is our birthright to be connected to that flow. So it's much smarter than me. I'm a
um,
conduit.
yes, we're conduits.
For sure.
I love that. It is our birthright to
Hmm.
connect to that energy flow.
It
Uh,
is.
yeah, you don't have to, uh, you don't have to do anything to deserve it
Hmm.
because you are. It's just because you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you graduate from that $15 set to a different set?
Oh, I have many sets, actually. My two favorite sets are the Solar Harmonic set, which really helps work on things going on in your nervous system. And then I also work with a set that was put together by Eileen Day McCusick. It's a biofield tuning set, which is really great for combing your field and clearing out things that are outside, and also for bringing back energy that's been stuck out there and bringing it back into your central channel, they call it, which is mostly, some people know it as the chakras, but those are my two favorites. But I use, well, let me show you actually. So there's a couple of, there's forks that are unweighted, which you might have seen. They've looked like this.
Mhm.
I'll actually play one. Very simple. And just breathe. So that's an unweighted fork. And then there's these guys, weighted forks. Now, you may have seen them in a chiropractor's office or people like this because these are meant to create vibration on your bones and to help with that kind of communication. So it's like lighting up your bones. So you place them on your body on different points, but you can also listen to them and they're very calming. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but
That in a different place.
mm. So my grandson says that the weighted fork, I played it for him, and he said it sounds like a bee, Grandma. I'm like, yes, it does. So a lot of these frequencies you can hear and feel and experience in nature too. So there's definitely resonance all the way through.
I was going to ask, it's funny you should mention nature. I was going to ask if um, dogs, cats can hear the higher vibration that the humans can't. Is
Mm.
there, do they have a reaction, or do tuning forks does tuning work with animals as well as people?
Oh yes, it works incredibly well with young children, with animals. I mean, especially the weighted forks. The unweighted forks with animals can be very intense because they have supersonic hearing. So like think about a dog, they can hear stuff that we would just be happy to hear ever, like we'd never hear it. But with with animals, you'd put weighted forks on points on their spine, provided that they're comfortable. It's very soothing, actually. And a lot of people use them for horses, their dogs, their cats. I know other practitioners that specialize in that, in
Oh,
animal communication and working with
yeah.
the vibration with animals, because the animals are such beautiful teachers for us anyway, in terms of
Oh,
connecting to the truth of our energy and where we hold energy. I mean, I learned more about my own anxiety going on a horse for the first time than I
mm,
ever would have learned by somebody telling me or me thinking about it. I
yeah.
just knew where it landed in my body. And I had a different understanding of how that ripple affected another creature because the horse responded to my tension. So again, there's this beautiful dance. So it's frequency to frequency. I mean, we all know that. You can walk in a room sometimes and you feel somebody's vibe and be like, I don't know about that. Or, ooh, I want to meet that person. And a lot of that has to do with the electricity coming off of our electromagnetic fields. I mean, every organ and every cell emits that,
Yes.
which is why releasing and clearing on a regular basis is so important, because we want to have a clear signal with the universe too. Otherwise, it's like if as a tuner, I can listen to your field, the fork tells me where there's static. And that's what an energetic block actually occurs in my world as static in your signal. So all I do is I use the fork to help you get back on your radio station. So you're in your sweet spot.
My husband and I were just having a conversation this morning about tuning into spirit and energy. And I said, it's like a radio station. You hear the animal, right? And you can't, until you clear it out, then you can hear all of what there is to hear. So I
Yes,
love that
so true.
you used the same exact example today. That's so awesome. That is so awesome. So what if someone were to say, how would someone know that they need a tuning?
Yeah, it's such a great question. It's a little different for everybody, but basically, when you're out of tune, it has to do with the way you're responding in life. So sometimes it's physical and you notice things in your body, like, sorry, I'm having allergies today. You might have a spot where you're holding tension and you're not conscious of it. And then all of a sudden, when you do get conscious of it and you breathe into it, and it releases, you're like, oh. So, that's when you're holding tension in weird places, or you're um, not able to sleep well or relax, or if your digestion is really off,
Mm,
usually says, I'm out of tune, something's not together. Or, if your emotions are swinging, or you're reacting to things that you wouldn't normally roll off like a duck's back off with water, and you're going, why am I so concerned about this thing over here? It's a good place to take a look. So everything becomes kind of heightened, more, I wouldn't go as far as saying triggered. I mean, if it continues over and over,
mm,
you definitely know it's like, I'm out of tune. And so there's a few simple things. I mean, going outside, being in nature in any way, shape, or form will always bring you back into harmony, inner harmony. Listening to these sounds of tuning forks or recordings of forks, but you can also use your own voice. The beautiful thing is, with tuning, you're hearing and feeling from outside in. It's coming in through your ears or on your body. But when you use the power of your own voice, you're creating sound and vibration from the inside out, which
mm.
is why I like to combine them. And I think it's important to use both, especially as women. We need to use our voices more. We need to be feeling strong that we can be seen and heard for who we are and what we're here to share. and not get stuck in shoulds and all the other things. So ultimately, if you feel like you're out of tune, it's usually because you're suppressing or repressing something. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the biggest signpost. So even if we ignore for a while, it's going to bubble up. We're just not made to hold on to this stuff.
That's why when clients ask me, people will have an appointment, they'll say, well, how often should I come?
Mm.
Well, I get energy work once a month because life happens and things are going on. And so it's that clearing is just a beautiful opportunity. It's a self-care. So you can have
Yes.
something that you're working on, like maybe you're working on grief or anxiety or whatever the thing may be, where you need more assistance or more support. But there's the maintenance, right? Maintenance.
Yeah. And I love that you said maintenance because it's both. I mean, we tend to notice when something's acute. You have something traumatic occur, you seek out support. And what happens over time, and you've probably seen this and because of the work that you do, especially when you're working with the Reiki through your hands, you really can feel it. Um, there's energetic patterns that get stuck in our nervous system. And so you may have worked through whatever that initial trauma is, but over time, it's still sitting in parts of your energy field or in your overall electric response. So there's two parts of the nervous system. And the sympathetic is the fight or flight, the whole I'm getting chased by a tiger, like this guy, or the parasympathetic, which is the relax, rest and digest, pretty chill space. And a lot of medical professionals say you need to be in parasympathetic state 80% of the time to function optimally in your body. So can you
Right.
imagine? And we're like, you talk about the 80-20 rule. We are like lucky if it's 90-10 the other direction, where 10% of the time we're chilled out. So that's why we all are more triggered more easily, more stress in our lives, in modern life. All of the, computer time, chemicals, pollution. There's so many things that gunk up the electric signal in your field, which essentially is we need to work on our parasympathetic nervous system. And that's what all of these do so quickly. So for me, I call it electric hygiene. And it's like brushing your teeth. You wouldn't skip brushing your teeth, otherwise, you won't have teeth over time. So it's the same thing. So it just takes a few minutes a day to just literally listen to some frequencies, have that little adjustment. And over time, it accumulates. And suddenly you'll notice I'm just not getting triggered about stuff I used to. Or you might have a moment where you're like before we got on this live, and I was like, I don't know, I'm tech, I don't know, I'm not comfortable, but all right, we'll go. It didn't tie me up inside. I didn't get spun out because my circuitry is working the way it was built. So
Mhm.
so for me, I do it daily. And I think when people start tuning, it's kind of like building up, like when you take a vitamin, right? The vitamin, you take it once, it doesn't do anything. You need to take it consistently. Same thing, I call them sound vitamins. It's like these little blips of sound, and you can do that throughout the day. That's why the humming and the tuning with forks and chanting or using your voice, you don't even need forks. You can listen to birds,
Mhm.
and that will do it. So
Now you're speaking my language.
yeah, I know the birds here in Vermont are amazing. It's so great.
Love my birds. And I also, as you were speaking, I was thinking about the light language and soul language that I
Mm.
channel, and how, it's not in a language that I interpret into English, but that vibration, and it comes in different sounds and tones, and there's everything from very high to almost guttural, and
Mm.
how that feels, and I can feel it literally clearing stuff in my body as it's channeling.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so actually excited that you shared that you channel that, because it's such a beautiful gift to have and to share with people. And so many people don't know about it. Just like tuning is something people don't know that much about. Um, but it works at the DNA level. I mean, it's like you're receiving code from the universe,
Yeah.
and And so that's why it works so quickly, I think, you know.
Yeah, I was working on some sexual trauma from a very young age, and my mind wasn't allowing me to do the work. And so what I did is I switched to the light language and just spoke from that place. And I was in a fetal position, just sobbing, speaking, just allowing it to release. And it was like almost listening to a child when they're crying so hard they can't speak, because that was speaking was my inner child. But it was so healing. So that when we talk about, I'm giving real life experience to the conversation we're having now, because I feel that I teach from a place of vulnerability. I know you do too, right? When we share our stories, when we're able to share our stuff, we get to, that ripples out and makes the difference, which is why I just shared that with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really powerful. And we're here to just be more of ourselves at the end of the day, right? I mean, this is about like leaning in and trusting our humanity. Our soul chose these bodies and these lives for us. And it doesn't mean we don't have free will. But what I love about some of this learning to use these tools as a way to release is that it allows me personally to have my vessel be working the best possible way so that things can come through that I'm here to do on my mission, right? It's if you're compromised or you have energy that's stuck internally, as much as, I mean, it can be painful to really know there's so many things I want to do to contribute more, to share my gifts. You know, so many people in our circles are this way. And yet, you know, if we don't have simple tools to just continue to work through whatever comes up, you know, we're only like partially actualized. And for me, that was really painful. I think that's why when I had the experience I did in 2020, I mean, at that point, literally my inside and my outside didn't match at all. The business, the bottom fell through on the business. I was having all kinds of symptoms in my body, like tremendous weight gain and joint pain and mental fog. And my intuition was spinning like a top, like downloads and ideas coming through the wazoo. But it was like I might as well be speaking another language. I had no idea what any of it meant. So I felt lost, you know, and that I was so far out of tune at that point, which is why I think, you know, I was given the gift of being pointed in that direction initially for myself, and then understanding that, oh, this is supposed to be the next phase of my life's work, isn't it? Yeah.
It's beautiful. And it speaks again to what you were saying earlier about spending 80% of our time in the being, you know, in the quiet, and how important, it's just so important, even if it's just sitting quietly and not worrying about the meditation, not worrying about doing self-Reiki, not worrying about the tuning, just sitting quietly, just to allow your whole system to go into that.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to create pause so that we can naturally reset. And our bodies don't know how to naturally reset anymore because we're glued to our phones and we're on computers and we're multitasking and rushing from one thing to the next. And, you know, and especially in Western cultures, you know, we're in societies where if you're not vertically moving up a ladder, you're not doing enough. Or, you know, there's such a thing as horizontal expansion in which we become fuller and deeper, not just moving up, right? And so we don't tend to do the horizontal work. And I think that's part of why we get so disconnected too. So
I'm smiling because I was just sharing within the last couple of days about the seduction of the upward movement, right? When you're I just retired from doing something from 28 and a half years. And in my brain, I was like, well, I'm so close to 30. Maybe I should stick it out. Right. And it's so seductive, so seductive. And yeah, releasing that just opens up a whole new world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also I've seen so many people spend so much time, like their practices are just, they have so many personal practices that they use in rituals, and that's great. It's also really important to check in and be like, am I needing something different at this point? Going back to the am I out of tune? So if your personal practices aren't working like they used to, you're probably longing to expand in a different way to support you and what your soul and your body and your emotions and your mind need right now. And so it's great to know about other tools because, it's less about I'm going to keep fitting into this one thing because this is what I do. And it's more about what do I actually need to support me now? So it becomes a different question. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where my my intention this year was collaboration, because I wanted to be able to work with those and have these conversations with people so that, the people that I'm connected with, that follow me in the social channels, can meet other practitioners that do stuff I don't do, and
Mm.
that I could meet their people, and because I do stuff that they don't do. And I find that I only connect with folks who are in that expansion mindset. Like, it's not about they're my clients and I only work with them. We are here for a bigger cause. We want
Mhm.
the ascension of all. And so whoever people work with, like, ascend, because it helps us all.
Yes, yes, and we definitely, Mother Earth's been screaming, and I mean, there's no accident that so many people are awakening now. The conditions are perfect for that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I was wondering, would this be useful? Just I had something specific I wanted to share that people can take away if they needed to
Oh,
do something
sure.
super quick for themselves. This
Absolutely.
is so easy. You don't need a fork. You need nothing other than yourself. So, and I've taught clients to do this. So it's what I call my flush method. And it's, yeah, that's what it feels like. It's literally that pause and being able to do this every day. I usually do it when I end my workday because if you are somebody who's working with other people's energy, as much as we need even better hygiene because it's easy for things to bleed in if you're too wide open, or if you don't shut down your intuitive channel, you're up at 3 in the morning because your guides are talking to you and you're like, I'm trying to sleep. These things happen. So what I've learned to do for myself and what I share with clients is this flush method, and it's really simple. So I do it with a fork, but you don't have to. So if you don't have a fork, all you need to do is I'm going to do it. You just stand strong, get up and stand, and then like this, like you're flushing, you're stepping down, and then breathe. And as you breathe and you picture water going down a drain, you say to yourself, I release all energy that does not belong to me, and I respectfully return it to its rightful owner as divine white light. And
Beautiful.
so it is. I do this not to get too personal, but I'm going to. I do this in the bathtub when the water is draining. I do it when I flush the toilet. I do it when I stand up in between client calls. You can
Mm.
do this anywhere. And if, I'm very kinesthetic, so I need the feeling of it feels like my whole body registers. And it's also retraining my electric circuits to be like, oh, you don't need that. And then coming back into the calmer state.
Love that.
So anyway, I just wanted to share that as a quick takeaway. Because it's so easy to do, and we just don't, we try to make this stuff really complicated, right? We can take care of ourselves like that hygiene, that electric hygiene and that daily hygiene is energetic hygiene. It's so important for boundaries too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and of course if you're heart-centered and you're awakening and you've got all kinds of stuff going on inside, sometimes it feels kind of raw, so it's easy to be picking up other people's stuff. So just know
I
that
would
you don't have to keep it.
think that would be a great technique after you've had a conversation with somebody, or you've been in an energetic exchange with someone where the energy is not does not fit for you, is not a match,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And you want to release that energy and really like,
Yeah. So, and if don't need as much physical, but also sometimes you can brush them off into, you know, like there's this something very important about moving the body while saying. And I think that that's why I love meditation. However, some of these other things are so much more instantaneous because the body is so smart. It knows,
mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I do. I'm the sweeping that you were talking about with the arms. I do that after client sessions into a candle, into the flame, and release it into.
Yes, that's a great one too. Yeah. But I love that ritual. I had this client once and she was just getting really drained. She had a lot of clients and she wasn't clearing herself enough in between. And she knew this and I reminded her of it and it made a difference. So she'd start her day with something to bring her energy up. So she'd get in her flow and increase her flow with her electric voltage with some tuning. She'd do her things in between. She'd do quick flushes. And then at the end, she'd bookend the day with the release and it made a difference.
I love that, Lee. Thank you. I think that's a great way to end our segment with a really powerful tool that people can utilize. No matter where they are, they can go into the bathroom stall at work and do it, right? You don't
have totally. Those are from my corporate days. I used to go in and be like, I'd walk in the bathroom, like, why am I rocking in the stall? I was like, again, the body knows, the movement shakes it out. So yeah. And I just perfected it over time. So I didn't look as crazy.
Well, that's where we talked about animals being our teachers, right? Yeah. Animals it off.
They do it too. Yeah.
My cats will get up after a nap and they'll stretch their body out, right? They're just like getting it all moving again. Their animals are wonderful teachers. So Lee, where can people find you?
Yeah. So they can find me on Facebook and I have no idea what my actual link is, but I'm happy to share it in the comments after. And that way, if people want to connect with me. And also, I have, if this is okay, and if not, no problem, my website, obviously, leemurphywolf.com, but I have a free gift that might be useful if anyone feels interested or intrigued by this idea of tuning. And it's called Tune Into Your Next Chapter. And it's a 5-part audio series that talks a little bit about how you can start using tuning. And it also includes like a checklist with 20 different ways you can tune yourself in less than a minute a day. And it also has a demo recording, which is about, I believe it's an 8-minute tuning. So you can start doing it for yourself and see how you feel. So if that's of interest, I can certainly put that in the chat as well. If people would love to grab that, I'd be happy to give that to them.
Absolutely. And for those who are listening who don't know me, you can find me Healing with Yvette everywhere. That's Healing with Yvette. It's easy. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and my website. And on my website, I too have a free gift that you can grab for your chakras and different ways to support your chakras. Sound was not one that I mentioned, but it is absolutely one that can be used. But I talk about 7 different ways that you can self-support your chakras, which is what Lee is talking about, different ways to self-support, because we both believe in doing that. And we both believe in working with your partners, your healing partners, to further yourself as well. So Lee, thank you again. Thank you for the opportunity to chat about tuning. And would you like to send us away with a sound before we go?
Ooh, I certainly would. So, okay. If you feel like it, you can just kind of close your eyes to receive this. And just allow that sound to wash over you. Just breathe a little more deeply. And last one. Opening your heart to the truth of who you are. You are perfect exactly as you are, and so it is.
We, again, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. So wonderful to connect and for us to be able to share, and hope it supports a whole lot of people.
Same here.
Mm-hmm.